This is, without a doubt, the single stupidest camera I have ever held in my hands. Actually, this may be the dumbest piece of technology in existence. This is the $2,000 Sigma BF. Let's start with the most obvious feature of this camera, the radically impractical, simplified body. Crafted out of a single block of aluminum, this may be the most uncomfortable thing you will ever hold. Look, I'll give them props for one thing. It does look different than everything else out there. And they made a couple alterations to it, like curving out this corner and including the thumb rest to make it a little bit easier to hold, but the edges on the body are all just still quite harsh and sort of sharp on your fingers. There's also no finger grip on the front of this thing, so you have to kind of pinch it strongly with your entire hand, but then when I do that, my thumb actually gets in the way of all of the buttons on the back. The body alone isn't super heavy, but I certainly wouldn't call it lightweight either, and having that lack of grip makes it really, really difficult to hold on to, especially when you have a lens attached. When I'm shooting with it, I've actually just ended up holding the lens most of the time because it's way more comfortable, and it's practically impossible to operate the thing using just one hand because it keeps trying to slip off on me. The aluminum body also shows pretty much every single fingerprint and drop of sweat on it, so it goes from looking kind of cool and sleek and modern to really gross and sweaty within 30 seconds. The controls are also extremely lacking. In the name of simplicity, they have removed practically everything that makes a camera easy to use. There's no programmable buttons. Heck, there's not even a menu button. You can access the shooting controls with the main select button and a few other settings with the info button, which is the one with the 3 little dots. Neither of these menus are very easy to navigate, in my opinion. Sometimes you're able to use the touchscreen, but most of the time you're not. And making quick adjustments while shooting is practically impossible because everything is controlled using a single scroll wheel, and it takes 3 clicks just to go from adjusting your shutter speed to your ISO. The play button brings up your media review, but this is also incredibly bare bones. There's no way to view multiple thumbnails at once. You have to just scroll through all of them to find the media that you want. And if you're in video mode, the only way to scan through the actual video is by increasing the playback speed. There's no playback bar that you can kind of just scrub back and forth, which is really basic, and I don't know why they don't have it. But that's just the menus. I will say there is a groundbreaking removable battery. There's also no viewfinder because photographers don't need those anymore. The screen on the back is fixed into the body, which is absolutely necessary to maintain that vintage, impractical aesthetic of the camera. And oh yeah, in a super bold move, there's no SD card slot. The BF writes everything to a 236 gigabyte non-removable drive, so to get anything off of it, you have to plug it directly into your computer, which is so much more convenient and easier than anything you're used to. You don't need removable, expandable, and repairable storage. Trust me. But seriously, I'm not even gonna go into all of the reasons why this is a horrible thing for video shooters who rig out their camera, because I would never recommend filming video with this thing in the first place. It's just not designed for video creators. The internal storage is also terrible for photographers who want to keep their files safe and manage them in an effective way. That said, the camera is clearly not designed for professional photographers either. So who the heck is this thing for? We haven't even gotten into all of the shortcomings that the BF has on the software side. But software isn't only important in your camera. It's also the way that I was able to break out of my slump as a creator and go full-time on YouTube. I owe so much of my success to today's video sponsor, VidIQ. VidIQ is an online suite of tools designed to help creators come up with ideas, master the YouTube algorithm, and get more views. Their most powerful tool, the one that I use all the time, is called the Keyword Inspector. I use this to research every single video that I make because it will take my video subject and scour the internet to figure out how many people are interested in that topic and if there's already too much competition for my video out there. I make a video if the keyword that I put in returns a score of like 65 or higher, and in general, I've seen some awesome success with that, getting views in the tens of thousands. When I used to get like 300. That said, VidIQ has a ton of other tools available, like an AI YouTube coach, video idea generator, and title optimization tool, all of which I have also found to be super helpful. I started using VidIQ when I was able to get my first month for $1, so I'm super excited to be able to offer you the same deal. Just go through this QR code up here, scan that if you want to do that, or you can go through the link that I have down below. The Sigma BF may suck, but I will always recommend VidIQ. The Sigma BF has a full-frame 6K 24.6 megapixel sensor, which admittedly is able to capture some really nice looking photos. The image quality is great, but the image quality out of basically every camera is great nowadays, especially when you're talking about ones that cost $2,000. And that is where I run out of nice things to say about the specs. The camera only has an electronic shutter. There's no mechanical in there, which means that it's not a good choice when you're trying to photograph anything that's moving quickly. Hand in hand with that, it caps out at a photo burst rate of only 8 frames per second. For reference, the $680 entry-level Canon R50 shoots 15 frames per second in its electronic shutter mode. Not sure why Sigma decided 8 was enough, but again, they know better. Why are you questioning them? There's also no in-body image stabilization in this camera for photos, which made getting sharp shots at slower shutter speeds really difficult. And to make matters worse, every time you take a photo with this camera, you're gonna hear a crappy artificial shutter sound. I mean, come on, this thing sounds like it came straight out of a crappy, free-to-access stock audio library. The autofocus is fine for photos, but it does only detect people and animals. There's no vehicle, plane, or insect detection modes on this thing. There's also no way to adjust the autofocus's tracking sensitivity or subject switching sensitivity. The BF does shoot L-log, and just like photos, the footage looks good, but the recording options suck. You can shoot 6K or 4K up to 30 frames per second, or 1080p up to 120 frames per second, but notice that there is no 6K or 4K 60 frame per second mode, and I'm absolutely dumbfounded as to why. 4K 60 is an absolute non-negotiable for any sort of professional production, whether you're shooting YouTube B-roll or you're doing sports videography for like highlights. It's a must-have. I'm just sitting here editing and realized that I forgot to mention that the image stabilization on this thing, the Sigma, is terrible. It's not really good for anything other than some slight handheld movements, because I tried walking with it and it looked terrible and for some reason really blurry, and when I turned it off, I didn't have that issue, but it seemed to make everything just softer and blurrier, almost like it missed focus, but it didn't. It was just the stabilization kind of warping around and making everything look like crap. These video features are such a strange mix of having high quality image and color science while also making absolutely no effort to make this a usable professional video camera. All you get is a USB-C port, there's no actual microphone jack, there's no cold shoe mount, and while the camera ergonomically looks like a pretty good option for a gimbal if you're trying to have sort of a minimalist approach to that rig, it's kind of terrible for gimbals too, because you gotta remove the entire camera just to offload your footage, and once you do that, you're not gonna be able to shoot. You can't just pull the SD card out, swap a new one in, and get back to shooting. You're completely out of commission when you're trying to offload footage with this thing. And you're also limited to 230 gigs. In other words, it absolutely sucks. In photo mode, you're only gonna get about 260 shots per charge, which is, well, it leaves a lot to be desired. I also tested the battery in the video modes, and I started it at 20% power. I figured I'd save a little bit of time, just do a little bit of math to figure out how long this thing can shoot for. Here were the results. With 20% power, I got 13 minutes and 41 seconds of recording in 6K 24, which equals 68 minutes and 42 seconds on a full battery. Now in 4K 24, the results were 25 minutes and 17 seconds on 20% battery, which means that it would get 126 minutes and 25 seconds on a full battery. Now, depending upon how the camera displays battery, you might get some slightly different results if you test it at 100% battery and drain it all the way down, but I figure if I'm within a few minutes, this is gonna be a pretty accurate result, and it's not actually all that bad. However, lab tests only go so far, and I found in practice, this thing somehow uses a lot of energy just sitting there when you're changing settings, or if it's in sleep mode. It would never last you an entire day of travel photography, let alone an entire session of filming a YouTube video like this for a couple hours. So the battery could be worse, it could be better. I'm kind of surprised that it performs so well in the video modes when it has such abysmal numbers for photo, but that's what you're getting. The Sigma BF feels like a gimmicky camera offering from a company that had no idea how to compete with other manufacturers in the space. So instead, they pushed out a lazy, lackluster camera without any form of innovation, then stripped it of everything practical to slap the label of artistically simple on it and charge an absurd price for a camera with less features than the entry-level cameras of every other company. They sell the thing as a way to simplify photography and to focus more on the image, but all I was thinking about when I was using it was how uncomfortable it felt in my hands, how hard it was to change the settings, and why the heck the battery was draining so fast. Oh my gosh. Other than that, I have no strong feelings on the matter. Watch this video if you want to see a camera that's actually worth the money that you'll have to pay for it. Don't waste your money on this crap. I mean, $2,000. Who are they kidding?